know if the folks in the room appreciate what an important national figure Megan is. She's out leading a lot of the national conversations about manufacturing. And I have been listening to her podcast and following her on social media. And she is truly one of the leading advocates for manufacturing in the United States. And I'm so, so grateful to be able to be with all of you. And thanks again, Megan, for everything you're doing. So I just want to start by saying that this is a little weird for me. So in this job, I get to do a lot of exciting things. Last night I got to have dinner with the Dutch ambassador, for example. But this is the first time I've ever in my life spoken to a high school. So my staff warned me that I have to make sure that I don't curse, which is kind of normal for me. And I hope that you will, keep me on track if I start going too far. But I really want to make sure that I can answer all of your questions. But when I was your age, I grew up in a small farming town in rural Pennsylvania. It has about 900 people. And I was an assistant manager at Arita's Water Ice. I don't know if you guys have that in Beloit, but you sell sugary, frozen water. And then I was also working night shifts at a diner. And to think that I would ever end up in the Pentagon at that time was completely crazy. I never would have imagined that I'd be where I am. And so that you're aware of what I do, my job is to essentially think about the whole welfare of the country and ensure that we have a strong, prosperous country and that we can maintain our technology and economic advantages in the world and be global leaders. So as Megan said, my name is Jesse Salazar, and President Biden appointed me back in January to be the head of defense industrial policy. And right now my job is to work for the Secretary of Defense. So I'm coming at you from the Pentagon, which is an incredible place to be able to work. And just this morning, I got to have a conversation about cyber hardening weapon systems and another conversation about the next generation of space travel. So you may not know much about industrial policy, but my job is pretty straightforward. So I have to make sure that our warfighters have everything that they need. So I'm sure you've seen some Chris Hemsworth movies or, G.I. Joe. My job is essentially to make sure that we have all of the equipment, but at scale for the whole of the military. So I want to make sure that we can make things: bullets, lasers, missiles, robots, tanks, even high-tech uniforms. And here at the DoD, I'm the guy in charge of making sure that American companies can dream up and design exciting new products and systems, make them, and then deliver them for our armed forces so that they can keep our troops and our country safe. And the secretary believes that this is a pretty important job. So I'm very lucky to carry the civilian equivalent rank of a 3-star admiral or general. And today I'm one of the highest ranking Latinos in the history of the Pentagon. And I'm also one of the highest ranking gays. And to help me do my job, I have an amazing team of patriotic Americans who come from all walks of life and want to find ways for young people like you guys to get interested in manufacturing careers. And the thing I want to make sure you understand is that manufacturing today is not like it was. So we're here today to have a whole conversation about manufacturing jobs. And I have plenty of good public policy, politician style reasons why we need to have that. And I'll talk about some of those. We have a skills gap. We need to create more opportunities. Manufacturing promises stability. But when I was your age, I really only cared about one thing, and that was freedom. I wanted to do work that really mattered. I wanted to have enough money that I could make my own choices. I wanted to make sure that I could use the talents that I had in some kind of productive way. And I was really frustrated because, in my town of 900 people, I felt like I had some magic inside me, but I really couldn't figure out what to do with it or where to go. And I didn't have a straight path to the Pentagon. I did lots of other things. I carved my own path, and I'd encourage you to do the same thing. When I got this job, my friends told me I had to clean up my mohawk. So I keep a not totally tight mohawk at the moment. I had to get a haircut today. And I said, you know what, to hell with that. I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to go and be myself at the Pentagon, and I'm going to walk with pride, and I'm going to walk with confidence in who I am. And I think that that's something that manufacturing promises. And I think it's strange to start that way, but I want to talk about why that ties into manufacturing. So, first, a career in manufacturing can make your life incredible. And if you do that, it will dramatically improve our national security and make our country stronger. But I wouldn't ask you to sacrifice your happiness for the country. I'm here to make sure you know that manufacturing can create a whole new world for you personally and for the rest of the country. I'm talking about making more than $100,000 a year as a welder, using computerized machining to make 3D objects. I brought one of these things that one of our 3D printers made, and this is a small titanium sphere that was made with additive manufacturing. You can also be working on, things that you might not think of as manufacturing. Like we have a factory that's creating materials that soldiers can wear for 7 days straight. So imagine if you're a soldier and working for 7 days, you don't have time to shower, you don't have a place to go and, clean off. So we have materials that make it so you don't stink. There's so many different types of manufacturing. It's amazing. So as you know, America used to manufacture a whole lot more than it does today. We've lost a lot of manufacturing capacity. I think most of the country recognizes this. We didn't focus enough on our manufacturing strength, and that was a big mistake. And I will tell you that we are now marshaling the full power of the nation to fix this. For the next decade, you are going to see massive investments in manufacturing capacity. We will build futuristic, cutting edge production facilities for the next generation. But this is Iron Man 1, and we're nowhere near the end game. Great manufacturing centers from Pennsylvania through the Midwest, all the way up to Wisconsin, have spent decades watching as other parts of the country, of the world, became manufacturing giants, whether it's cars, circuits, electronics, medicine. These are items we need in our daily lives, and it's important to have that manufacturing capacity here in America and to have all of you be a part of it. The country's leaders finally understand that strong nations must have strong manufacturing. These COVID years have shown how valuable it is when Americans make things here in the US instead of paying other people to do it overseas. So it's important that we manufacturing things here for a few reasons. First, I think all day long about national security and making sure that the country is strong. The US military is the most powerful military in the world. We operate at the bottom of the ocean floor. We operate on the land. We're in the sky. We're in space. And we can't be the best in all of these areas and keep Americans safe if every time we build a new plane, its parts are defective. Or if every time we send up a new satellite, a foreign adversary can hack it. We need to control our defense destiny, and manufacturing strength is going to help us to do that. We need to trust our systems, which means building them from the ground up right here in the United States and working with our partners and allies. And the second big thing is that economic security is national security. We don't just want to build a strong economy with advanced products because they sound cool or to make the US look good in the world. We want our economy to be soaring, because that means Americans are doing well, going to work every day, contributing time and effort and talent to meaningful jobs that actually allow you to have a nice life, adding value to society, and getting paid well while you do it. That's what I'm here to talk about. To do this, we need our best and brightest people working in manufacturing. I want you to be dreaming up new things that we need to have in the world. I want you to be designing cool new capabilities that the world didn't even know could exist. I want you to be building and making things that really wow the world. And so far, I've talked about manufacturing, but I want to talk a little bit about what that actually looks like today. So I said, manufacturing today is not what it was. I don't mean that you should, work in a factory, swinging a hammer day in and day out, bored out of your mind. No, we are here today, all of the fellow presenters, to tell you that that is not how the world looks right now in manufacturing. A lot of manufacturing is done in factories, to be sure. There is much more to them and to the job than doing the same repetitive thing day in and day out. Factories of the past were harsh, hard places. Their stereotype of a dull, unsafe, boring job with its dusty. It's no longer what manufacturing actually looks like. Today's factories are safe, bright, energetic places filled with technology, and we have just the coolest things in them. We've got robots moving around. We've got augmented reality goggles so that you don't have to spend, weeks learning a machine. You can actually learn it in real time. We've got new data technologies that make it so that even when you're sitting in Beloit, you know what's happening in part of your supply chain in Malaysia or in Mexico or in California. And you get to work in real time, collaborating with people around the world. These factories of the future are insane. And they're working on all sorts of technologies that we really need, like robotics, hypersonics, sensors, stealth airplanes. Um, the workforce in these sectors, is incredibly well paid, and they're always given exciting new physics, engineering, science, and technology challenges to overcome. America is about innovation and discovery, and about making what we can dream real. And I'll tell you that I'm personally very bad at this. So, Megan asked me to explain why I'm not personally in manufacturing right now. So in order to unwind, like to hang out and do wood carving, which I know sounds not super fun, but can be somewhat relaxing. And this is the best that I can do when it comes to wood carving. I don't know if you can see this little bird. It's not great. Anyway, manufacturing allows you to be on a design team. So you have someone working with you to make sure that you don't make a hideous bird like that. It's about being an engineer who's got a new system that is computer modeling what you're trying to create. It's figuring out how to use advanced composites so that you can have super lightweight rockets. It's about making all this stuff come together to build an American aircraft carrier where 10,000 people will end up living. Or you might have seen, William Shatner went up to the sky into space. Elon Musk is building SpaceX rockets. Manufacturing can mean building massive solar panels and wind turbines to help us solve the challenge of climate change. We have to actually get after these things and build this kind of future that we want to have. Manufacturing for me means helping companies like Ford and GM and others build cars that drive on electricity or that fly through the sun or fly through the sky powered by the sun. I mean, we have now we have the technology to build air taxis that are like drones that people can be in. The technology is already there and it's going to be deployed. And so we're heading into a new era where these futuristic technologies that we saw in G.I. Joe and The Matrix and, even Star Wars are actually going to be a part of your life. You guys are all going to see this. And manufacturing doesn't just mean that you get to make cool new things. It also means that you get to get ahead in life, way ahead. And like I said before, we are prioritizing investment in manufacturing, and we're putting the resources and focus of the federal government into revitalizing our industrial core. And that means that you can get jobs with incredible starting salaries that are well above the federal minimum wage. And some companies have so many orders right now that they are eager for smart young people like you guys to help them. And they're willing to invest in you. They'll pay for college, they'll pay for training, they'll make sure that you know how to use all of these things. The barrier to entry is low. We need them. And that's why, in today's manufacturing, we're about to get a much more diverse workforce too, right? So the history of manufacturing in America is one in which there's been really limited participation from women, from people of color, from people with disabilities. But that's not what manufacturing looks like today. There are so many different types of backgrounds that can come together to build the modern workforce. So, in your lifetime, humans are going to be a multi-planetary species. We're going to solve diseases like cancer and COVID-19 and come up with phenomenal virtual reality machines that change the way we experience life. That is just barely scratching the surface on why manufacturing is going to be the coolest part of the economy for the future. And I want to tell you again why it matters to the security of our country. This competition is taking place globally, and it's going to be won or lost right there in places like Beloit. That is why we need people like you guys to answer the call and serve your country and your communities in manufacturing roles. And I truly believe that in order for us to succeed and make sure that the 21st century doesn't see major war, the United States is going to have to outthink, outcompete, and outbuild our competition. And the key to that future is here in the United States. Manufacturing is going to be hard too. There are all sorts of exciting challenges. When you build something that's never been built before, you get to really test yourself. And that's why I'm doing this work, because I want to do what I can to support the amazing people across the country who are doing this kind of future building that we need to do. So I'm going to just end with that and make sure that I can answer any questions you have. You can ask me about manufacturing, but you can ask me about just about any topic. So I'm happy to talk about anything that's happening at the Pentagon.
What do you think is your favorite part of manufacturing? One student wants to know.
Oh my gosh. So I got to go to this awesome place, Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So across the country, we have these labs. Can you hear me? Megan, can you hear me? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up. Okay. So across the country, we have these amazing labs that are basically like Star Wars. They're awesome. We have people doing really, really cool new things. And I got to go to this awesome manufacturing site that is looking at the future of manufacturing. And essentially, you have these big CNC machines, right? They're like these big boxes, and you get to design these really cool things. And then the machine will start to print them and start to shave off the metal and make sure that it is what it is. And it was super cool because this group didn't really focus on anything related to the pandemic. They were building things like this. I got this at that place, right? This is like a 3D sphere that is the whole world. And I saw how amazing these folks were building these cool, test items and piloting new technology. But when the pandemic hit, they went to their colleagues who were in material science, which is like, using metals or using chemicals or using different types of fiber. And they figured out how to repurpose some of the work that they were doing to make masks, right? So the whole country was looking for masks. And here you had this group of people that didn't do anything related to masks that in 2 months were able to create a whole manufacturing line for this. And that is the future. So when people think about working in like a factory that makes windshields, you're not really going to be doing that the whole time. Manufacturing today is highly flexible and agile, and it's definitely going to be more so in 5 years. So the thing that I think is exciting about it is that like all this stuff is changing so fast, and the technology is going to allow people to do lots and lots of different types of things. So no one's going to get bored. And I thought it was really exciting because I love when people who don't know how to do something suddenly figure out how what the thing is that they do know how to do can transform the world.
Absolutely. Those are all great things. Another student wanted to ask, does your job allow you to travel the world and gain new experiences?
Oh man. So normally I would say yes. I was all set to do a world world tour, seeing some of the coolest factories around the world. But because of COVID, I haven't been able to do a lot of traveling. But right after Thanksgiving, I'm finally going to be traveling, and I'm going to be going to some really cool spots in Europe. I'm going to see the world's biggest hammer, which I'm really excited about because I've been thinking a lot about metals and how metals are really important. So I can't tell you exactly where I'm going, but it's going to be super cool.
I can only imagine how big the world's biggest hammer can be. I have a couple questions too. All of these students here, they have the wonderful opportunity to learn some of the basic skills with CNC machining and also with welding. And I wanted to see what kind of skills do you think students should build if they want to start a career in manufacturing?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is not to start with the kinds of skills that you want. It's to figure out what you love doing, right? I used to play soccer when I was in high school, and I was really bad as a striker, and I was really bad as a defender, and I was a midfielder. And I realized like very early on that there are some things that I'm good at and some things that I'm really bad at. So I should just focus on the things that I really know how to do well and the things that get me excited, and then keep focusing on that, and I'll get into a better spot. So what I would say is that people should start with figuring out the kinds of things that they want to do in the world, right? Like, do you like rockets? Are you interested in robots? Are you fascinated by lasers? Do you want to be like working in a James Bond set, coming up with cool new gadgets? Just start with the kind of stuff that you think is really fun. I would literally start by thinking about like a movie or a TV show that you've watched 3 or 4 times that might have something to do with manufacturing, and then just go and start learning about it. Figure out if you like Iron Man, right? Like, one of the cool things about all of this technology is that it's all coming together, and there's so many possibilities for how it can work. So I wouldn't start with saying you have to start with machining, or you have to start with how to do logistics, or you have to start with any particular skill, welding. I would start with figuring out what you love and what interests you, and then figuring out how to make it better.
We do have one question that a student wants to ask himself. So he's in the way back, so you probably can't see him, but here he is.
Yeah.
My question was, out of all of the manufacturing and all the things that you've done, what has been like the hardest or the most tedious thing that you've ever had to work on that took you the longest to actually figure out to produce well?
Yeah, I would say that the hardest thing has been cybersecurity. So I got this job, and right before I started, the whole cybersecurity of weapons systems and cybersecurity of the defense industrial base were moved into my portfolio. So I'm not a software guy. I'm not a cybersecurity guy. I'm not a hacker. So I had to go to school basically and get up to speed as quickly as I could on how cybersecurity works. But the weird thing about all this technology change is that it's also vulnerable to cyber attacks, right? So things that you have in your house, like these smart light bulbs or these Ring doorbells, or all these other types of things, create all of these different points for connection to the internet. And so I had to really, really figure out how all of this cybersecurity work could actually be brought to bear to protect what we have, because there are adversaries who are out there trying to disrupt the United States, disrupt our manufacturing. And so, like anything, you have to start by protecting what's yours. And that's what I've really been focused on, because it's hard. And there are so many different points of contact for cyber, but it's really important to the future of manufacturing.
Okay, so we just got several last minute questions, and we have time for one more. So I'm going to take one randomly. With today's engineering standpoint, how can we progress with engineering improvements? And then, Jesse, I'm going to send you the rest of these questions so that you can answer them for the students, because I really value what you have to say. So we're going to connect you guys and keep you connected with Jesse after this and get your questions answered for you. But this one, just to repeat it, with today's engineering standpoint, how can we progress with engineering improvements?
So people are improving everything all the time. That's what this whole world is about. It's about people who, no matter what you create, are trying to think about how to make it better, how to make it cooler, how to make it lighter, how to make it cheaper. So there's something now called Devsecops, which I'm not going to go into, but you should definitely look it up if you're interested in this stuff. And it's the idea that you're constantly iterating and building and tinkering these things to make them better, right? So like, think about how many times you have to update your cell phone software, right? It's every couple of months, because people are constantly trying to make that thing better. So that's true for fighter jets. It's true for aircraft carriers. It's true for these satellites and robots, right? We're always trying to think of new capabilities and new things that they can do well. And that's basically where the future of engineering is heading. It's using technology to design like digital twins and models that allow you to take something and then build on it. And I actually think that Iron Man is a really good example of this, right? He starts off with the really clunky armor, then he gets a better armor, and suddenly by Endgame, he's got nanotech that seems to do whatever he wants it to do. Now, we're a little far away from having the Iron Man Endgame armor, but the early part of it is actually, fairly realistic in the way that it portrays how engineering iterates and builds and begins to come up with new things.
Fantastic. Jesse, I want to thank you once again for joining us today. I know you have a lot going on being at the Pentagon, and I definitely want to keep in touch with you, and hopefully you can come out and to one of these events and answer these questions in person. These students really enjoyed your time. Is there any last bit of advice that you would like to share with us before I let you go upon your day, and have a great weekend?
I would just say have a blast. Do things that you really love and that excite you, and then figure out how to do them well. And don't ever discount yourself. Have a great time doing it. You only live once. Thanks.